Brad Renfro's rise in Hollywood was as meteoric as it was perilous. The phenomenal success of The Client launched him from an anonymous schoolboy in Knoxville to one of the most sought-after child actors of the 1990s. Overnight, he found himself surrounded by flashing cameras, lucrative contracts, and adult pressures far beyond his years. Opportunities poured in quickly. By 1995, Renfro starred opposite Joseph Mazzello in The Cure, a moving drama about two boys whose friendship is tested when one is diagnosed with AIDS. Though the film did not dominate the box office, critics praised Renfro for his poignant and sensitive performance. That same year, Disney cast him as Huckleberry Finn in Tom and Huck, opposite Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Lighthearted though it was, the film showcased Renfro's versatility and ability to carry a story. Soon comparisons arose between Renfro and other young actors of the era. He was often mentioned alongside Leonardo DiCaprio and Edward Furlong, but his closest rival was Jonathan Brandis. Both were handsome, charismatic, and viewed as potential heirs to River Phoenix, whose tragic death in 1993 left a vacuum in Hollywood. This comparison, while flattering, also proved a heavy burden. The unspoken expectation to match Phoenix's brilliance weighed on Renfro, intensifying the scrutiny he already faced. Renfro admitted later that losing the lead role in Outside Providence, 1999, to Brandis was a crushing disappointment. The rivalry even extended into darker territory. Friends later revealed Brandis had grown obsessed with Renfro before his own suicide in 2003. Their struggles mirrored Phoenix's fate, forming a grim thread of gifted young actors unable to withstand Hollywood's relentless pressures. Despite such undercurrents, Renfro pressed forward. In 1996, he played the younger version of Brad Pitt's character in Barry Levinson's Sleepers. Sharing the screen with Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Pitt, his raw portrayal of trauma in a brutal reform school earned respect. 2 years later, Renfro took on one of his most challenging roles in Bryan Singer's Apt Pupil, adapted from Stephen King's novella. As Todd Bowden, the teenager who discovers his neighbor is a Nazi war criminal, Renfro delivered a chillingly complex performance that cemented his reputation as more than a child star. By the late 1990s, it seemed he was navigating the difficult transition into adult roles with remarkable skill. Yet, behind the polished performances, his private life was unraveling. At just 15, the same year Apt Pupil premiered, Renfro was arrested for cocaine and marijuana possession. Though the charges were dropped, it marked the beginning of a long battle with substance abuse. His 2000 arrest for attempting to steal a yacht from a Fort Lauderdale marina made headlines, further cementing his bad boy image. At 18, he pled guilty and was placed on probation. Renfro leaned into the rebellious persona, wearing tattoos and cultivating an air of defiance. But behind it all was a deeply sensitive young man uncomfortable with fame. "I'm just a poor boy from Tennessee. I'm not a Hollywood kid," he once admitted. That tension between ordinary roots and extraordinary celebrity haunted him. Though he continued acting, his career faltered. Independent films like Bully 2001 displayed his talent, but major studios saw him as unreliable. Addiction left him missing calls, arriving late to sets, and delivering inconsistent performances. There were glimpses of hope. Renfro entered rehab multiple times, occasionally regaining clarity and expressing a yearning to reclaim the passion he once felt for acting. One of the most poignant revelations after his death was the existence of his son, Yamato, born in Japan in 2003. Renfro loved his son deeply, and the desire to be a better father drove many of his attempts at sobriety. Yet the pull of addiction proved stronger. In 2005, He was arrested in a Skid Row sting for heroin possession. Publicly humiliated, the once bright star was photographed in handcuffs, gaunt and disheveled, a haunting image of wasted potential. In his final years, Renfro was a shadow of his former self. Friends and family worried constantly but felt powerless. He seemed trapped in a cycle of addiction and despair that no intervention could break. His struggles raised uncomfortable questions about Hollywood's responsibility to its child stars. Was Renfro simply another young man who made tragic choices? Or was he a victim of a predatory industry that thrust him into adult temptations without proper safeguards? The truth lies somewhere in between. In the 1990s, protections for young performers were minimal compared to today. Renfro often spoke of feeling alien on sets, expected to act like an adult while still a child. At the same time, he bore personal responsibility for many of his decisions. The combination proved devastating. Critics continue to debate his talent. Some argue his acclaimed debut in The Client was a fluke, but his later performances tell a different story. In Sleepers and Apt Pupil, he demonstrated emotional depth and complexity far beyond his age. His weary vulnerability was not mere happenstance, it was a rare gift. The heir to River Phoenix, label both honored and cursed him, fueling a narrative of doomed brilliance that seemed almost prophetic. Jonathan Brandy's supposed fixation on Renfro underscored how these expectations could become unbearable, linking young actors in a tragic cycle. Even the circumstances of Renfro's death sparked speculation. He died on January 15, 2008, at just 25, from an accidental heroin and morphine overdose in his Los Angeles apartment. Weeks later, Heath Ledger died from a similar cause, leading to rumors of tainted drugs circulating in Hollywood. No evidence ever confirmed this, but the timing cast a dark shadow. For his family, the loss was devastating. His grandmother Joanne, who raised him, was heartbroken. Yamato, his young son, would grow up without a father. Culturally, Renfro's death became symbolic of Hollywood's failure to protect its youngest talents. Alongside Phoenix, Brandeis, and others, his story fueled calls for better education, counseling, and safeguards for child actors. Since then, the industry has gradually improved its support systems, though challenges remain. Renfro's artistic legacy endures. The Client remains one of the most powerful child performances in cinema. His later roles displayed a range that suggested greatness cut short. Co-stars remembered him as intuitive, raw, and brimming with potential. Beyond Hollywood, his story resonates because it reflects a universal struggle, the battle between light and darkness, hope and despair. He was not just a troubled actor, he was a son, a father, a friend, a boy from Tennessee caught in forces too great to control. His contradictions defined him. He was brilliant yet self-destructive, sensitive yet defiant, a loving father yet consumed by addiction. To dismiss him as merely another casualty of fame is to ignore the human pain at the heart of his story. He was crying for help in the only ways he knew, but too often those cries went unanswered. Renfro's short life left an indelible mark. His films remind us of his raw talent, while his downfall forces us to question how we treat those thrust into the spotlight too soon. His story is cautionary, yes, but also profoundly human, a reminder of the fragility of life and the necessity of compassion. Brad Renfro was a fleeting flame, brilliant, beautiful, and extinguished too soon. His tragedy lies not just in what he lost, but in what we lost with him, a gifted actor whose potential was never fully realized. Remembering him means acknowledging both his artistry and his suffering. As one co-star once said, he was a beautiful, beautiful boy. That beauty, raw and untamed, is what lingers when we recall Brad Renfro, a boy from Tennessee who carried the weight of Hollywood's expectations, battled demons he could not conquer, and left behind a legacy of both talent and tragedy.